Hello, and welcome to the Shiba Chat show. This is your podcast for all things Shiba Inu. On Shiba Chat, you will learn about health, training, education, nutrition, grooming, art, owner stories, and experiences about our beloved, fluffy, and natural monument of Japan, the Shiba Inu. We will be helpful and fun, full of guests like Shiba owners, trainers, nerds, and experts from around the globe. Now, here is your host, directly from Portugal, Charlie Mancini.
In this third episode, we are going to listen to the Shiba Chat we had with Gonz, the dog trainer and founder of Okami Canine. He is known in Toronto, Canada as the Shiba Guy. Gonz uses a balanced approach to training, focusing on your relationship with your dog and understanding of canine behavior and communication. There is no single method or tool that will be successful with all issues, so it will always cater training to your dog's individual needs instead of relying on one-note methods. The purpose is the dog owner to have a happy, balanced dog and a happy, meaningful relationship with them. Gonz educates owners and reinforces clear and healthy communication with your canine family. For more information, please contact Gonz at instagram.com/okami_canine. OKAMI_canine, or check his website okamicanine.com. Gonz, welcome to our Shiba Chat show. How are you today?
I'm very good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. Estou muito bem, obrigado.
Hello. Hi there.
Hello. Hi there. So, when did you start as a dog trainer? Tell us all about it.
As a dog trainer, I started professionally about 2 years ago now.
Okay, cool. And unprofessionally,
unprofessionally, I think before that, unprofessionally more as a hobby, maybe for about a year before that. Before that, I didn't really think too much about dog training in any way.
Okay, why have you chosen to become a dog trainer? Or
that's a really good question. I think with a lot of trainers, have a similar story. The reason I wanted to become a dog trainer is because I had a dog who had a lot of problems.
Okay.
And
what kind of issues?
Very specifically, my male dog, Kitten, who is a Shiba Inu, had a lot of aggression and reactivity issues, fighting dogs, fighting people, biting, and not puppy biting, not playful biting, like biting to hurt. Biting to hurt someone, okay. I went through my hand a few times, like very serious aggression issues. So, like most people do, at first you look for help online, and that usually is not the greatest. And then we looked for help from a trainer. We don't have a large selection of quality trainers where I live in Toronto, Canada, is the reality. So we went to a trainer who didn't really help very much. I would say in some ways made things worse. Then we found a better trainer who taught us a lot more. And as he would teach us more and more, I wanted to learn more and more. He taught us a lot and he helped us a lot, but then we reached a point where we weren't getting any more progress with the dog. So I started to learn myself and look for other trainers online around the world that had some experience or insight. And eventually I kind of fell in love with the art of training dogs. And I said, I really like doing this. This is a lot of fun. It's problem solving, and there's a scientific approach to it, and there's an art to it. It's not just, you can't read a book and become a good dog trainer. You have to have the right emotion and insight and talent and be able to work with the dog. And so I really started to enjoy it and did it more as a hobby and wanted to get my own dog to be better and better and better until we got to the point where I said, a lot of people are asking me for help and let me try helping them too, because I think I can.
So when you started to see actual results with your own dog, you definitely fell in love with this art and job. Okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, cool. When was your first contact with the Shiba Inu breed? When
My
was
first
it?
general contact with the Shiba Inu breed was years ago, a long, long time ago. I don't even know if I want to say how many years because it would
Yeah,
give away my age,
is
but
in the 90s, in the
it was a
90s.
long time ago. Yeah,
Okay.
I would say. I mean, maybe the early 2000s for sure.
Ah, okay. Okay.
I had a friend who lived in Los Angeles, and she had a Shiba Inu, and I'd never seen a dog like this before. The curly tail and the small body and the foxy look, or like the wolf-like look and the pointy ears. Kind of looks like a husky, kind of like a German Shepherd in some ways. Like I couldn't, kind of
Mm.
understand what this little dog was, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was a funny dog. It had a lot of attitude. It had a lot of kind of personality, not attitude, but personality that I hadn't experienced before. So that was my first introduction to the breed. I think really the first time I had seen it, but I didn't really think much about it after that.
Yeah. How old was that dog, that Shiba in
The
particular?
Shiba that I met, when I met the dog, was about a year old, 1 year old.
Yeah. And what do you like most about Shibas in general? Now owning two
No,
Shibas?
yeah, not owning two Shibas. Not owning two Shibas. What I really like is I personally like their independent nature. I I've grew up having dogs and living with dogs, and what a lot of them had in common was kind of almost relying on you all the time, always looking for something, always wanting something from you. Whereas my first Shiba that I got, she was a female. I got her before the male that I have. She didn't really care that much about cuddling with us or being
Okay.
near us or being pet. She always wanted to be around us, but always 1 or 2 feet away from us. And if we got too close, she would get up and she would move.
It was
And
a
I
cat-like dog.
almost like a cat, like
Cat-like.
absolutely, yeah. A
Yeah.
lot of people say that, and I personally like that. I like that she could be on her own. Um, my male actually turned out to be quite the opposite. He loves being on top of anybody and everybody. He likes to just find his spot and next to you and everything. Um, but in general, but he also has a very independent nature. He doesn't need a lot of a lot of pampering and a lot of personal care. If you give him the instructions and say just do this, he'll do it, and he says, okay, I got it from here.
Cool. So, what was the most unexpected situation you found? Maybe a funny one when walking your Shivas.
Funny, yeah, funny
People
situations.
people ask,
Yeah,
what's
funny
the breed of
situations
the
is
dog?
usually more about what people say than maybe interactions. But
Uh-huh.
people say, "Are those huskies? Are those husky puppies? Or is that Hachiko?" Like, no, it's a different dog. Is that like those are Akitas, right? Yeah, no, those are different breed. This is a smaller version. They look very similar. Um, I think probably the funniest is always. I think it's always comes down to the memes, right? People don't know the breed name, but they know the meme name, right? So they say,
Yeah,
"Oh, it's a
Doge.
Doge. It's a Doge. It's a Doge. Can I pet your Doge?" And you know what? And I actually didn't. I wasn't very familiar with that meme when I first got my
Okay,
dogs.
okay.
So the first time I heard that, I was like, "You want to pet my what?" Because I didn't know what they
Yeah,
were talking.
good. A
What you
slang
want?
slang
Yeah,
word
it's like yeah,
for dog.
and I would say I get it maybe once a week now, where somebody will say, "Oh, there's
Yeah,
the Doge. Those are the Doge dogs."
yeah. Do you do like online training too, as
I
well?
do online training as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, yeah. So I think one of the drawbacks and benefits of the worldwide pandemic that hit us is I was limited in training in person for a long time, and actually
Mhm.
for around the first 6 months that I was actually fully launching my business in Canada here in Toronto, the city went into lockdown. So we weren't allowed to work with people in person. We weren't allowed to do a lot of things in person. And it was right around the time that I said, I'm officially launching my business. Now we're open for business. And then the government says, no, you're not.
Shut down, total
Yeah, shut
shutdown.
down. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I very quickly had to think of ways that, I want to make sure that I don't lose this opportunity to establish my name in this industry. And I want to make sure that I am able to still help people. So I looked at, can I do phone call conversations? Can I do coaching, something like that? And then there was 1 or 2 trainers at the time that were offering virtual Zoom consultations. And I said, hey, that might be an option. So I started doing that. I started offering it, and I started getting people asking questions about it. And it started out with just very casual conversations that they were looking for help with their dogs. And then I realized very quickly, well, I have dogs here with me, and these people have dogs, and I know specifically what to do with them. So I expanded that to, I'll tell you what, let's do a virtual training session. I will show you what to do with my dogs. Then you do it with your dogs on camera, and then we can work this way. And it ended up being really, really successful, and a really big part of my business right now is virtual training. I think I say maybe half of my client base is local in Toronto or the surrounding area, and half of it is international, which is mind-blowing to me, but also I'm incredibly thankful for.
Yeah, but do you have like European, like Asian?
Yeah, so I have like, so let's see here. So I have clients in Australia, in Finland, in Italy, in Germany, in Spain, in Brazil, in Macau, in Hong Kong. So yeah, absolutely worldwide. There are no borders online.
Okay, that's really cool. We had 2 guests on the show. It was Sarah and Joyce Wong.
Right. Yeah.
Joyce is Canadian. She was our first guest.
Nice. Yeah. Joyce. She was one of my first virtual clients as well. Actually. Yeah. And she's in Edmonton, which is maybe a 2 days drive away from Toronto. So she was virtual. And Sarah from Etsu and me as well. Actually, I worked with her virtually as well, and she's in Los Angeles. So it's very, very incredible what's capable nowadays in terms of meeting people, interacting with people, and not just clients, but Shiba owners. And I think with both of them, as with a lot of my clients, I think we've developed friendships over the course of our training, which is a very important part.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And regarding Etsu, Sarah has been doing a great job, like training Etsu to become a service dog. What do you think about it?
I think it's incredible.
For Shiba, sometimes you can see Shibas as
I think it's incredible. I think that was one of the things that I think I really appreciated about Sarah when we first started working together. She told me her goals, and she told me what she wanted to work on, and she even asked me how I could help her with the service aspect of training Etsu. And at the time, I told her I'm not comfortable with the service training because I'm just not experienced enough in that particular field of dog training. But I was always really, really impressed by her efforts to train Etsu to do things that not only are a little bit rare for Shibas to be able to do, but it's difficult for a lot of other dogs to do as well. Like usually a service type dog is usually bred for that purpose from puppyhood, right? And we say we're going to choose this puppy to do this type of training, and they have a lot of kind of criteria they want to make sure they have in the puppy before doing it. And those the criteria that not necessarily a lot of Shibas have, because of their breed traits and because of their certain personality quirks. So I think it's incredible that it shows to me, one, the talent that Sarah has in training Etsu. And two, it also, for me, it's incredible because it also shows the ability that the dog Etsu has, regardless of her breed. And people will say, oh, I've never heard of a Shiba being a service dog or a support animal, but here's one doing a really good job, being trained to do it and doing a better job than a lot of other dogs I've seen at the end of the day.
Yeah, so we must kill all the stereotypes about breeds in general. Sometimes say a German Shepherd can do this, Border Collie can do that, and the Portuguese water dog, dog. So
I've met
breeds, I guess.
Yeah, I've met a Portuguese water dog that is afraid of water. So that that's the first step in the breed myth, right? So I think that is important. I think a lot of people put a lot of weight behind a breed trait. And what I tell people all the time is don't let your dog's breed define their ability. I don't want to train my Shiba because I heard that it's so hard to train them. That shouldn't stop you from trying. I heard that my Shiba can't learn recall. Well, you heard, but can I show you? Can we try? And you might be able to get recall. Don't let it stop you. I think there are breed traits that we need to understand in every dog. It helps us train them if we understand the breed. But I think for me, I like to dispel the myths because it shouldn't be the door closing on your dog's life. just because they have a certain breed, or because they're quote unquote stubborn, or because they can't learn recall, or this or that. Don't close the door on their quality of life because you think they can't. Try first. If they fail, then at least you tried, but try first is always my thing.
Well, when you are training your dogs, are you improving yourself as a human being too?
I think so. Yeah, I think a big part of my training, my personal training style, I call myself a relationship-based trainer. And one, it is because a lot of the difficulties people have is they don't have a great relationship with their dogs. Their dogs don't really care about them too much. They don't pay attention to their dog in the right way. They pay attention to their dog in the right way. I'll buy you 101 toys, but I won't train you how to walk properly on leash. So they have a very kind of unbalanced relationship with their own dog. So yeah, I teach people the skills and techniques to start communicating with their dogs better. But at the end of the day, good dog training is people training. And so I'm building the person up, and I'm giving the person new skills and abilities and knowledge. And by the end of a training program, the people are a different person. Hopefully, in my opinion, hopefully they're a little bit better. They're a little bit more confident. They have more knowledge. And in the case of Sarah, and even in the case of Joyce as well, like they are fully capable of going on to train other dogs if they felt like it, because they have grown so much on their own journey with their own dogs that I would feel comfortable if either of them said, hey, do you think I should train my neighbor's dog? Yeah, try it. Absolutely. I think you're great. Right. So good dog training is always going to make the person a better person at the end of it.
And they are always sharing daily their routine with the dogs, and that's beautiful to watch. It's lovely.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's inspiring for other people who maybe are having difficulty in training. And I call them ambassadors all the time. I call them the Shiba ambassadors because they're showing what the breed is capable of. For everybody who says, I can't let my dog off leash, well, here's two dogs that look at them go. Look at all the things these dogs are doing. So I always call them, and among other people, other trainers, other clients that I have as well, I always call them, these are good Shiba ambassadors, because they're not just showing the cute stuff that Shibas can do, but they're showing the really impressive things that a Shiba can do as well.
And practical things too.
Practical things, yeah.
And sometimes when you watch like an Instagram profile of a Shiba Inu, it's all fluffiness and cuteness and blah, 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 and there's some kind of a void. And comparing with these profiles like Etsu or Miko, I almost forgot the name, Miko. You check regularly like their daily routine, the training, the education. And I think that's the most inspiring profile.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah, and to that point, I've worked with clients who have very, very impressive Instagram profiles, and their dog looks perfect and cute. And then I'll get an email from them saying, I need help with my dog. Right? My dog is doing this. My dog is tearing up the couch. My dog won't listen to me on a walk. I'm like, oh, okay, but your Instagram looks perfect, right? Because of course it always does. So it's like, I love their accounts as well, because they definitely show the process of training. It's not easy. It's not a 1 hour thing, and then your dog is trained. It's every day. You do a little bit, every day. It becomes a lifestyle.
Yeah, of course. Shiba Chat.
You are listening to the Shiba Chat Show, your podcast for all things Shiba Inu, celebrating the Doge community around the planet. Feel free to share this podcast with your friends and follow Satoshi, Charlie Mancini Shiba, at Instagram.com/Satoshi.theshiba. The show will continue right now.
What are the most effective dog training techniques that you've been using? You use like positive training?
So this is a really interesting conversation. So part of the reason I became a dog trainer is because I felt that there was too many trainers doing things that were not effective. And when I first started with my dog, we used the quote unquote positive only training. It was not effective. It's just not effective for my dog. And now as a trainer, I find that it's not effective for a lot of dogs. So I would consider myself more of a quote unquote balanced trainer. And at the end of the day, what that means is, there is a science to learning. There is a science to dog training. And a lot of times positive only trainers will say we're science-based, but they're only using 1% of the science, of the actual science. But they use it to, to tell people, look, we're better than that trainer because we use science. But good science uses all science, not just some science. So I call myself a balanced trainer because yes, I use positive reinforcement. It's the most effective way to teach a dog something. But what happens when your dog does something that they know they're not supposed to? Do you give them another treat? No, because that would tell them to do that mistake again. So you also have to use the concept of punishment. And what I try to explain to people is that the word punishment doesn't mean what most people think it means. If I say I'm going to punish my dog, it doesn't mean I'm going to kick him in the head. It means I'm going to do something that will decrease the likelihood of something happening. So for example, if my dog is always jumping on the counter to steal my dinner, I can punish him by simply removing my dinner from the counter and putting it inside the oven. I'm removing something to punish my dog. It doesn't hurt him. It's not an emotional response, but he's less likely to jump on the counter because the food isn't there anymore. So that's the concept of punishment. So in balanced training, we use those concepts. Is what I'm doing going to reinforce the behavior, or is it going to decrease the behavior? And I'll use what I need to in the moment for that dog to increase the behavior or decrease the behavior. Right? Why do people use a leash on their dog so it doesn't run away? Every time you put your dog in a leash, you are actually using punishment. You are applying a leash to make it less likely that they run away. So the science of dog training is more kind of clinical and precise. It's not an emotional response. So my training uses all aspects of the science of learning. It's called operant conditioning. There are 4 quadrants. There's positive reinforcement. There is positive punishment. There's negative punishment and negative reinforcement. And I mean, that's a conversation that could take 2 hours, but very basic concept. Positive reinforcement is you do something I like, so I give you something. And that means you're more likely to do it again. Then there's negative punishment. I offer you something, but you're not doing the right thing, so I take away the reward. Negative punishment. I'm removing something to decrease the likelihood that you do something wrong. Oh, okay, I shouldn't have done that because the reward went away. Then there's positive punishment. Like I mentioned, I'll add something to make you stop doing something. If you try to jump on me, I'll spray you in the face with water. And you go, okay, I'm not going to jump on you again because I don't want to get sprayed in the face of the water. That's positive punishment. Then there's negative reinforcement, removing something to make something more likely to happen again. So there's, it's a very technical field. Why I mentioned at the beginning, there's a science to dog training that you need to find, but at the end of the day, there's an art form to it and how you apply things. And when I'm training dogs, I'm not thinking in my head, okay, now I'm using positive reinforcement. Now I'm using negative reinforcement. I don't do it, but the concepts need to be in there, and you just go with the flow. I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to do that. There's a bit of an art form to it. So my training style is what most people would call balanced. And what that means is balance is a moving target. When you think about balancing, right, it's always moving. So sometimes I'll be more positive. Sometimes I'll be more punishment based. Sometimes I'll use different aspects of learning to get the dog to understand what I want. Because at the end of the dogs are not emotionally driven. So we tend to put emotions onto our dogs, and they have emotions. They absolutely have emotions, but their emotions don't drive their decisions like they do with humans. We're kind of we're the weaker ones in that aspect, where my emotions will drive my decisions. I might be hurt, so I'll say something hurtful to someone. I might be mad, so I'll do something. Dogs don't really act on their emotions. They act more instinctually and on opportunity. We have to keep in mind their emotions when we're training them. Does he look stressed? Does he look angry? Does he look calm? Does he look excited? But I can motivate them to do things using logic. Input, output, opportunity, reward, punishment, and the dog can become one of the most incredible dogs ever when you understand it from that moving balance type of approach.
So you create almost a perfect dog.
Ideally. Ideally. You try to. Absolutely try to.
What are the most common complaints that you notice Shiba owners towards the character, the temperament of the breed? What do you think is like the common ground?
Common ground for Shibas, I find, are one, pulls on the walk. That's common for every dog, but Shibas for sure. Pulls on the walk, won't listen to me, is very stubborn. I hear that word a lot when people talk about Shibas. They're very stubborn. She's so stubborn. He's so stubborn. that only listens to me when I have food, right? Only cares about me when I have food, and doesn't let me pet her. Always tries to bite me when I pet her. Those are the common things that I personally get a lot when I work with Shiba owners.
Okay, so those are like the common complaints.
Yeah, those are the common complaints that I see.
Shiba owners. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
What about the Shiba community in Canada? Is it like very good, sort of?
It's like, I think it's
people
kind
are
of,
united
yeah, I
with
think
the
that's a
Shiba?
difficult question to ask.
Okay.
So Canada's a pretty wide country. So for example, where Joyce lives, she's in a different province, right? Like a different state. And as far as I know, the Shiba community there is a pretty good community. The breed has been popular there for a lot longer than it has been in Toronto. Like when I first got my Shibas 3.5 years ago, they were not very common to see around the city.
So you're the Shiba guy.
So I'm the Shiba guy. Yeah, so I really am the Shiba guy. Yeah.
That's why you're on Shiba Chat.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And nowadays, there's almost like a Shiba on every street. When I go for a walk, I'm like, oh, there's another one. So I think the popularity of the breed is a little bit newer here in Toronto. And before I became a trainer, when we first started our Shibas, we joined one of those, Shiba groups on Facebook. And it was a big part of the information that we tried to use to raise our dogs and to quote unquote train them or to teach them new things. And unfortunately, it was a big part of us making a lot of mistakes with our dogs now that I look back on it, right? And and I don't blame anybody who's in a Shiba group, and I don't want to say that Shiba groups are bad, but a lot of the times you have people sharing information with each other that, one, don't have experience training in general, two, might have only had one dog in their entire life and it wasn't a Shiba before, and three, are usually talking from personal experience. My personal experience with my dogs may not reflect what your dog needs in your life. So if I say, you know what, all you have to do is this, and you try it and it doesn't work with your dog, usually what happens is you're going to think maybe your dog is the problem instead of maybe the information I gave you is the problem. So a lot of people kind of get discouraged from training their dogs because they get information that maybe isn't the best information. And then when it doesn't work on their dog, most people say, oh, my dog is a problem, so stubborn, won't get it. Right? And really all they needed was to understand their own dog before applying any type of technique or knowledge or anything. So in my personal opinion as a trainer, I don't like the Shiba groups because of the information that's shared there commonly is not the greatest information. I've actually left all Shiba groups that I used to be part of because I would often see comments and information and ideas being shared, and my personal urge to say, no, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that, and try to correct people. It was frustrating so much that I was saying a lot of bad information. And I said, I'm not even gonna look anymore. People want to, give each other advice. That's fine. It's not my job to correct people online. I'm a dog trainer, and when they're ready to train their dog, they'll find me, and hopefully they'll get a better result.
Yeah, of course. Have you seen any movies? Have you read any books about the breed? Or
yeah, I've read books about the breed. Probably the best book that I read was a really poorly translated copy of a Japanese book that was from a breeder in Japan, which I really like, and I wish I could find it. I don't even know where it is. It's somewhere in my storage, but I wish I could find it because it talked about, all the breed traits that Shibas have, or that people talk about that Shibas have. They're kind of misinterpreted in English. Like what they mean in Japanese, the meaning and the application of the breed trait is slightly different when it's translated properly. So a lot of people use these breed traits as an excuse, but when you look at the original breeder listing of their traits, like, oh, that's a different perspective. They're not stubborn, they're resilient to challenge. That's different, right? It's it's a different, there's a different understanding there. But perspective. Yeah, the point of view is different, and it completely changes how you might interact with your dog when you see it differently, right? So I wish I could find the book, and I might find the name of the book and link it to you. But basically, it was produced by the Japanese Society for the Conservation of Breed.
The
Nippo, yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So they put out their little handbook of like breed traits for different dogs. So I'll try to find that and link it to you somehow. But that's a book that I've read. Other books that I've read on the breed, I found were not very helpful, to be honest. There were a lot of fluffy information, right? Just kind of like cutesy information without insight into the breed. But in general, I haven't really focused too much on, consuming material that's Shiba specific. Even though I am definitely known as the Shiba Guy, and I would say I've probably worked with maybe 80 Shibas at this point in my training career. I would say that I haven't done a lot that's very specific to Shibas. I've done a lot that's specific to the theory of dog training, and yes, I
work with other breeds.
Yeah, I work with other breeds and everything. And so once you apply the right things in the right way, they'll work with any breed. But we mentioned the Shiba groups. They are very, very loyal groups as well. So if somebody from a Shiba group gets a good result from training with me, they're going to tell their friends, and their friends will trust them. Because, oh, your Shiba does look good. Okay, I'll trust you. And so they kind of like all congregate together and have supported that, that Shiba Guy nickname that I have, which I'm fine with. But at the end of the day, I don't actually focus too much on learning about Shibas. What I know about Shibas, I've learned from my own dogs and the dogs that I've worked with. But that's book-wise. Movie-wise, I mean, there's I think this one should probably be known, but there's a story in Japan, pretty well-known story in Japan, about a Shiba who saved their family during, I think it was a tsunami or an earthquake.
In 2004.
Earthquake. There you go. Okay, there you go. Yeah, I think it's a Mari and her 3 puppies or something. Yeah. So basically, they were separated, and the dog basically made sure that the family was reunited and was safe, and it's a very heartwarming story. There's another movie, it's from Japan. I don't think it's as popular, but if someone can find it online, I highly recommend you look at it. I may be getting the name wrong, but I think the name of it was The 7 Days of Himawari. And it's basically a story of a Shiba who is in a dog shelter. And this shelter, if the owner of the dog isn't found within 7 days, they put the dog to sleep. So this is Himawari, is placed in the shelter with her puppies. And so the movie is about Himawari trying to desperately get all her puppies adopted before the 7 days are up, before they get put down. It's a pretty emotional movie, very, very Japanese emotional.
Or more recent one?
I don't think it's the 80s. More recent. I would say it's more recent. Yeah, I would say it's more recent. Yeah, 7 Days of Himawari, if I remember the pronunciation of the word correctly. Pretty emotional movie. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
7 days?
7 days, yeah. 7 Days of Himawari.
Himawari.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, very emotional movie. Cool because you get to see the Shibas in the movie, and they do show a lot of expressions, right? Their faces show a lot of expressions, so they make great movie stars. And there's another more recent movie. It came out maybe 2 or 3 years ago called Shiba Park. It's actually a Taiwanese movie. I think it's just about like 3, middle-aged men. They each have a Shiba, and they all go to the park every day. The movie is not really about their Shibas. It's more about the men. They just kind of have conversations about life and things that they've, that they're experiencing. But it's cool because they each have a Shiba, and it's like, the 3 men meeting up, and they each have a little, cute-looking Shiba. It's always a nice image.
Cool. What about Instagram profiles or other social networks, TikTok or Facebook?
I definitely spend more of my time on Instagram. When I do any type of social media, I would always recommend people check out Meet Miko, right? Because they do a lot of work. Joyce does a lot of work with Miko. Etsu and me, absolutely, right? Training accounts like that. Outside of them, I follow all my Shiba clients, but in terms of, Instagram accounts that are interesting, funny, or social media accounts, I think Maru, the Shiba, is like the #1 original online presence Shiba. He's Japanese. He has a YouTube channel. I think it's Maru, the Shiba. And I think a lot of the memes and a lot of the maybe romantic ideas people have of Shibas probably come from him. I mean, he's been doing YouTube videos for, I want to say 7 years. And it's got the full range of the cute Shiba content, of the Shiba attitude, of everything in the social media posts. And he's like a nice, chunky looking Shiba,
It's condensed in that YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's perfect, like perfect image of a Shiba. But apart from that, I don't, to be honest, I don't follow a lot of content. So while my social media accounts, they say like I follow, but I don't actually spend a lot of time watching a lot of content. So I couldn't even tell you. I'm sure there's probably 121 different accounts that I follow right now that are Shiba related, but I probably haven't seen any of their posts in the last 3 months because I'm just, never looking. I might put some content up and then I kind of turn it off for the day. Then I get back to training.
So if people want to get in touch with you, with Okami Canine, what are the best?
Instagram is a good start because so Okami Canine, it's Okami_Canine, it's all spelled out. So OKAMI_CANINE, and OkamiCanine.com. We can see a little bit more of like my background, where I learned my dog training from, other trainers that have taught me, my mentors. I talk a little bit about that on my website. Those are the best ways to get in touch with me. And on the Instagram, you'll get the best idea of what my training is like. Because I have posts that are usually just informational posts for people, things to keep in mind with your dog, things to keep in mind as you raise a dog. And my stories, I tend to reshare stories from all my current clients, and they're working on things and they'll tag me. So I'll repost it to my story so people can see the process of training a dog is not just I show up in your home for an hour and bye-bye and your dog's trained. I'll show up and I'll teach you and I'll teach your dog, and then you practice. And so people can get a good idea of what training would look like because they see me repost the stories from my clients. And they can also see, the range of people that I work with, whether it's in person or online or virtual. So they can see that, a lot of people are getting the same results despite being, in Finland versus being down the street from me. So social media, Instagram would be the number one spot to get an idea of that.
So last question, what's your advice for folk like me who's getting his first dog, and his first dog is a Shiba Inu?
The number one mistake. To be honest, I would say for you, I'm gonna position this more for you personally, but this will apply to anybody who's getting their first dog or their first Shiba. But I would say that the first thing that you need to do when you get your puppy home is very clearly establish what's going to be expected. And what I mean by that is crate training is number one, but more importantly, what's going to be established in terms of the interaction you're going to have with your dog throughout their life. So start very simple things that are cooperative. When I feed you, I'm going to feed you from my hand. When we play, I'm going to give you the toy, but then I'm going to put it away. I'm not going to let you play with it on your own. So, one of the things that Shibas are known for is being independent, very cat-like. They don't really care about me. They kind of ignore their owner sometimes. They've been trained to do that, right? So train your dog to see you as important. Here, I have a toy for you. Play with me. Okay, now I'm putting the toy away. And tomorrow I'll play with you again. So you're more important than the toy is. I'll feed you. So you're more important than the food is because you're getting the food from me. Those are like specific things to start when you get a new dog and a new Shiba. But in more general terms, start with identifying who your dog is in front of you. Don't say, I have a Shiba. What do I do for a Shiba? Say, okay, my dog looks very energetic. I need to keep this in mind while training. Or my dog looks a little bit lazy. I need to keep this in mind with training. So remove the Shiba label from your dog when you start training your dog. And remember, they're a dog first, right? So first, your dog is a dog, just like humans. We might have different cultural, differences,
of course,
but we're humans first. So we can relate on very basic things, regardless of where we might have grown up from or what our breed traits are to a degree, right? So first, identify who your dog is. My dog is like this. I think my dog is very energetic. I think my dog is super hyper. I think my dog is a little shy. Start there, right? And then go, okay, now how do I get the best out of this shy dog? Or how do I get the best out of this very hyper dog? Then go to that step, right? And then, so you shouldn't don't even think about your dog being a Shiba until maybe halfway through the process of getting to know your dog. Then you can say, oh, my Shiba is hyper. My Shiba is lazy. My Shiba is stubborn. Whatever.
Because
But
he needs education, right?
absolutely, yeah.
First educate the dog, and then let's see what
and then let's see how what he is. Yeah,
what
exactly.
he is.
Then let's see how the traits kind of affect it. So that's what I would say to anybody getting a Shiba and any dog in general. Identify who your dog is as an individual, and then start thinking about their breed and their traits and everything else.
Okay. Thank you very much. Muito obrigado, Gonz.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me on the show. Super happy to do it. Thank you.
Okay. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Shiba Chat.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Shiba Chat Show. And now it's time for you to go play with a Shiba Inu. If you would like to get in touch, please send us an email to shibachatshow@gmail.com. Bye for now.